I work the grave shift as a security guard for a hospital. And do I have some stories to tell? First, let me fill you in on the general layout of the campus. The main building is divided into two parts. The first part consists of a ground level emergency department, an operating room on the first floor, and a child birthing center on the second floor. And the second part holds the patient units. There are 7 floors here, and each wing is used by various patient classes: cardiac, behavioral, pediatric, etc. Apart from the main building is the McCam building, which is a historic structure that used to serve as a nursing school. Back in the late 1800s, it was a rectangular square building that was used partially for classes and partially for dormitories. Presently, it is used as an office space for handling management needs and things of that sort. It is only open during the day, unlike the rest of the hospital, which operates 24/7. My main duty as a security guard is to handle disorderly patients who are usually having psychotic breakdowns or are high on drugs, and to patrol the premises and make sure nothing is out of the ordinary. The exterior of the campus can get a little creepy at night, and my eyes are always peeled for wild animals, especially coyotes. Truth be told, I'd rather spend my entire shift outside with the coyotes than spend 5 minutes inside the McCam. I have to check it at least once a night, and I always make sure to bring my coworker with me. We hurriedly scan the building's 4 floors and move on without a second glance. We both agree that the place gives us the creeps. The hospital staff like to chatter about how hospitals are haunted places. It's reasonable. There's at least 1 death per day at the hospital I work at. This presumption, coupled with a tired mind, can give one the impression of spotting a ghost, as it makes its journey to the other side. I've never seen anything remotely paranormal during my shift, let alone my life. My coworker swears he's seen unexplained shadows move out of the corner of his eyes. Our perception changed the night we decided to play the stupidest game ever. I was sitting in my office with my coworker Frank, just talking. Our office was located just outside the emergency department, where we directed lost family members to the rooms of their respective relatives. On this particular night, a mutual buddy of ours, Mark, popped his head in. Mark was obsessed with ghosts, and the topic inevitably made its way into our conversation. "You guys see anything when you go through the McCam?" he began. We both shook our heads. "You know that's the most haunted place, right?" I rolled my eyes. "Mark, not this again." "It's true. You know that it used to be a nursing school. Well, apparently, it was a wicked tough one. Exams were brutal. They were so brutal that the nursing students began killing themselves because they were afraid of failing out." "That's dumb," I said. "There was this one group of nursing students. It was around 1910. I can't remember the exact year, but they were all so scared of failing their exam that they made a suicide pact. They all jumped from the roof and killed themselves, right in front of the entrance." I looked at him dumbfounded. "Seriously? That's a load of crap." Mark regarded me with wide eyes. "You don't believe me?" "Not one bit." "Do you know the glass cabinet with the creepy dolls on the ground floor?" I knew exactly what he was talking about. Near the main entrance, there's a glass cabinet that displays 5 homemade dolls that are dressed up as nurses. They stood 14 inches tall and wore those old school nursing outfits. You know, with the red crosses. I never gave them further inspection. because there was something unsettling about them. There have been problems of hooligans stealing them in the past, but never on my watch. They were indeed creepy, watching me as I did my rounds through McCam. Well, they say that the souls of those nurses became trapped in the dolls. 5 students, 5 dolls. They say that if you go to the 3rd floor, stand outside room 333, and knock on it 3 times, so the 3rd strike lands just as the clock turns 3:33 a.m. The dolls will play hide and seek with you. I laughed out loud at this. Mark shifted uncomfortably. I looked over at Frank, who was also silent. "Come on, Frank, you can't actually be buying this." "I heard about it too." Frank mumbled. I don't know how the two of them convinced me to try out this foolish experiment. It was obviously a ghost story fabricated by some bored staff member who wanted to get a rise out of their coworkers. But before I knew it, I was standing outside of room 333 in the McCam building with Frank and Mark. It was 3:32 in the morning, and I felt like a fool. "Well, here goes nothing," I said as I rapped on the wooden door 3 times. The sound echoed through the dark hallway and faded away. I checked my watch. It was 3:33 a.m. We waited in silence for a few moments. I braced myself for something, but nothing came. "Come on, let's go." I was cut off by the sound of a door shutting downstairs. I nearly jumped out of my skin. I looked at the other two, who were equally as shaken. I grabbed Mark firmly by the shoulder. "Are you messing with us?" I hissed. "Is someone pulling a prank on us?" Mark violently shook his head. I could see the terror in his eyes as my flashlight illuminated his face. "We need to check it out. Could be a trespasser," I hoped. We slowly descended to the 1st floor. As we came into the hallway, I wondered how frightened we'd looked. I led the way with Frank close behind me, while Mark was literally glued to his back. We probably resembled some demented version of the Mystery Gang. I flashed my light on all the doors. None were open. My light came to the cabinet, and my heart leapt into my throat. Yup, they were gone. "We're screwed now," Mark said softly and crossed himself. I turned to him. "Mark, I swear if you're pulling a fast one on us, I'll throw you off the roof myself." When I said these words, a chill swept through me. The temperature must have suddenly dropped 10 degrees and I shivered. The air itself also felt depressed. A whisper drifted through my ear. "It started. We have to find them or something bad will happen." It was Frank. "Can't you feel it? The negative energy." I could. I motioned towards the nearest door. "Come on," I said. We crept around the 1st floor, opening each door with great anticipation, not knowing what was in store for us. To my relief, the floor was empty. There was still no sign of the dolls. We gathered in the hallway and were about to make our way up to the 2nd floor, when we heard a slight patter above us. It sounded like 3 or 4 children were running around overhead. Pit-pat, pit-pat down the hallway towards us. A pause, then pit-pat, pit-pat in the opposite direction. This happened 3 times, then it stopped. Damn, I thought to myself. Oh, screw that. Mark whimpered and turned towards the door. My hand shot out and found his elbow. "Don't be a sissy, we're in this together." I could see Mark's face glistening with sweat and his eyes wide with terror. We climbed the stairway with great caution. We clung to each other in fear, savoring each breath as if it were our last. When we came to the hallway, we were greeted by the slightest tinkling of bells. The source was coming from the far end of the hallway. I shone my light into the darkness. Nothing. The faint tinkle warmly greeted us. I wanted to turn and run, but something was drawing me in. I slowly led the group towards the sound. I reached one of the doors and stopped. I motioned to my ear and pointed beyond the door. The other two nodded. I gripped the doorknob and slowly let myself in. On the other side of the door was a bathroom. It was one of those old dormitory bathrooms with a rounded sink in the middle and undivided latrines on both sides. In the porcelain sink were 3 dolls. I cautiously approached them and slowly extended my hand, as if the merest touch would set my hand on fire. I picked one up. It wore a white nurse's dress and a red cross on the top right breast. On its head was a white cap with another red cross. Its black hair fell over its face, covering the features. I swept its hair back to reveal a faded, smiling face. Its porcelain skin was icy cool to the touch. I shuddered. We each returned a doll to the cabinet. 2 to go, I told myself. Mark and Frank were silent, exhausted from the terror of the night. I was relieved that they were with me. If I had to do this by myself, I think I'd just lose my mind. "Do you think we ought to split up?" whispered Frank. "Cover more ground that way." I wheeled around and faced him. "No, don't you watch horror movies? No matter what happens, we cannot split up. If the entity is malevolent, it'll kill us when we're alone. If anything, we should tie a rope around us so we don't get separated." My logic trumped their fearful state. Besides, I felt much better with Frank and Mark close by. Glued to the hip, we went to the 3rd floor and inspected it thoroughly. We couldn't find any dolls, and I kept my ears pricked for any noises. When the 3rd floor seemed safe, we climbed to the 4th floor. While in the stairwell, the sound of running footsteps greeted us. We must be getting close to another one. As we stepped into the hallway, the footsteps faded, and we watched a door slam shut, making all 3 of us jump in unison. What came next made my blood run cold. You know, that cheesy kid's laugh in Roller Coaster Tycoon. The one you hear over and over again, which makes you want to punch that kid in the face. Well, hearing that same laugh now filled me not with frustration, but terror. Raw, uncensored terror. To my left, Mark was praying. Frank remained stoic as ever. Together, we inched our way towards the door that had been closed moments before. I braced myself and opened it, expecting the worst. Nothing came, and I looked inside. The room was empty, except for a ladder that disappeared into a hole in the ceiling. The night sky greeted us. Of course they would hide on the roof. After a quick game of rock, paper, scissors, Frank climbed the ladder first, with me close behind. We stepped onto a small stone patio. From the roof of the McCam building, the main part of the hospital looked inviting. I caught myself wishing I was in my office and not playing this stupid game. "Look, there." Frank pointed to a small figure in the corner of the patio. The doll was propped up against the stone railing that overlooked the main entrance. I picked up the doll and looked over the railing. It didn't look so high from here. I wondered if I leapt from here if I'd survive. I grabbed onto the railing and began to hoist myself up when Frank called out, "Hey, what are you doing?" I froze. What the hell was I doing? A spell of vertigo gripped me as I backed away from the railing. Did I seriously just consider jumping off? I shook it off. "Come on," I said sullenly. "Let's go find that last doll." We searched McCam for what seemed like hours. We thoroughly swept through the 4 floors twice without any luck. I was starting to feel more irritated than annoyed. The strangest part was that there were no more weird noises. I started to question if there were only 4 dolls to begin with. If there was a 5th doll, we would have to start pulling up the floorboards to find it. Our search for the 5th doll came to an anticlimactic conclusion when the sun's rays made their way into the hallway, filling it with a lavender glow. A wave of relief rushed through me. But in the back of my mind, I still regretted that we'd never found that last doll, if it ever existed. Things started to get weird since we played that game. Every morning at 3:33 a.m., I hear the pitter-patter of small feet run by my office. Or if I'm on patrol, I hear a child's giggling. These things always last a couple of moments, but it always scares me when it happens, even though I expect it. I have returned to McCam since that night, but there are only 4 dolls on display behind the glass. I could have sworn there were 5. A little update. I have a picture of the 4 dolls, and I will link it below in the description of this video. Let me know what you think in the comments. I am still alive. I still hear the noises every night. They have even been occurring in my house. Where can I find help?